Please explain briefly all canceling orders option. So let's see. Well, the big canceling orders option is, you have the close button here, the big orange close button on the trade control window. All right. So if we have let's go long. And so we have a pending entry order there. All right, it hasn't been picked up yet, so it's a long entry order, a long limit order down there. So we could just hit that close button, and that'll cancel it. Let's see, let's do this again. NinjaTrader also has a kind of a fail-safe feature here. NinjaTrader has built in this flatten everything. So if I hit flatten everything, then that flattens everything, but you also can see that BlackBird shut down as well. So NinjaTrader canceled BlackBird altogether. Right, so if we take a look at our strategies tab here, there's BlackBird, and we can see it has been disabled. Right, so this NinjaTrader's flatten everything is it's like a big fail-safe stop button here, just like it says, flattens everything, and it also shuts down all strategies as well. So let's get that going again. And let's see, there is, let's get this, oh wait, wrong chart. Let me get another chart going here. All right. And NinjaTrader also has a secondary safety feature here, but I need to I'm going to turn the chart trader on, and let's see, we're on oil here. Let me switch over to oil on this one. All right, so we're on oil on both charts, and so let me go along again. And so on NinjaTrader's chart button, if you hit their close button, it also cancels the any pending orders as well. Right, so right, so this is NinjaTrader's chart trader, and so their chart trader also will cancel strategy orders as well. So, and let's see, what else do we have here? Just let's close that out. And we also have in here, so I'm going to do this for the entry order here under trailing actions. Let's go and we'll make a custom trailing rule. And so inside the trailing rules here under action, there you can typically typically when you're setting up a trailing rule, you're moving the order somewhere, right? You just want to move the order. Right, that's what a trailing stop loss is right, your stop loss keeps moving. But there's also some other actions, so you could cancel an order as well. So under trailing rules, you can build in a custom cancel condition there, and then also let's go back to the options tab here where you actually set up the order, right? So you can see our entry order, the type is a limit order, so I'm just using a limit order here as my example, and you can see there's a cancel after. So there's a whole bunch of different scenarios that we can use to cancel an order. So for example, let's say I could say cancel after 2 bars, or cancel after 30 seconds, something like that. And then the cancel after, I could set this to either the first one to trigger, So if 2 bars comes first, then it'll cancel, or if 30 seconds happens first, then it'll cancel. Or I can wait for all the events. So we have to have at least 30 seconds to go by, a minimum 30 seconds, and then a minimum of 2 bars has to occur. So let's just put it on the first event, and click OK, and we'll go along again, and here, let's see, oh, oops, sorry, I forgot to, under my trailing actions, I did build this custom trailing rule, and I should have canceled it. There we go. Okay. There we go. So now my limit order won't get picked up. And so we'll just see after 30 seconds, or if 2 bars get built. Let's see, I'll move price up here. See if we can get a bar built. But in any case, that entry order will cancel after a certain amount of time. Let's see. All right, good. So that entry order did get canceled there. So there we go. So that's question 1. So question 2 is it possible to cancel pending orders? So for example, a stop loss or limit, or actually I guess a stop or a limit. So this would be an entry. This would be an entry order. Is it possible to cancel pending orders with a logic-based event? And yes, it is. So I already briefly demonstrated that. So let's go back in here. And so let me just, I'll use the entry order as my example here. So let's create another trend rule. So as I demonstrated here, under actions, one of your actions can be to cancel an order. And yeah, so let's see, having it be a logic-based cancellation, you could either use BloodHound, or you could write your own custom indicator. And so your own custom indicator could, what would be responsible for for having programmed into the indicator your custom logic, or the other option would be to use BloodHound as well. So you could build a BloodHound signal that's used to trigger the canceling order event there. So BloodHound doesn't have to be used for trade signals. BloodHound just generates a signal, and you can do with that signal whatever you want. So one of those options would be to cancel your entry order. All right. So you can do a BloodHound based logic to cancel your entry order, and pretty much whatever you can do in these custom trailing rules here, you can do to any order. So you could go in here, and you could also, under the trailing actions for your profit target, let's turn on the trailing rules there, set it to custom, and we'll add a custom trailing rule. And again, like my triggering event, I could set it to BloodHound, so I could use a custom designed BloodHound signal to cancel my profit target. All right, so just as an example there, and of course you could do the same thing for your stop loss as well. Let's see, let me reread the question. Is it possible to track and use order states in a logic template? No, it is not. NinjaTrader does not allow that. So these order states are only capable or only available to a strategy. They're not available to BloodHound. These order states cannot be seen by an indicator, and BloodHound is an indicator, right? So since indicators don't have access to this order state, that answer to that would be no. Yeah, BloodHound would be unaware of the order state because it's an indicator. And BlackBird does not have logic templates. BlackBird is designed to manage the trade, but BlackBird is not a logic engine. Yeah, I guess you could say. So let's see the follow-up to that. So for the example would be to prevent overfills. Well, BlackBird has its own order management engine to prevent overfills. So BlackBird will auto-correct itself. If there is ever an overfill, then BlackBird will correct itself. So yeah, if you build a system that's designed to always be in the market. So for example, if you design a system to always reverse, so therefore it always has a position open. So let's say you design a system that is designed to just go long and then go short and then go long, so it's constantly automatically reversing itself, using like a market order to reverse itself, right? Then it is sometimes possible to get an overfill. However, or even an underfill. And so BlackBird will monitor itself to prevent any overfills or underfills as well. And of course, underfills can only be corrected if you're using a market order, right? So if you're using a limit order, there's no guarantee that you'll get filled, and so BlackBird will not guarantee underfills if you're using a limit order because there's just no way to do that. Possible to cancel entry orders, I guess, using the trailing rules. And so yeah, I did kind of cover that already. And so let's see here. Let's take a look at our entry order here. Right, so there's a couple that, right, so there's a built-in simple way to cancel your limit order. All right, so you have these options here, right there. Yeah, these options here to cancel an entry order. Kind of one of the neat ones is, let's say the market moves away from your limit order, too far. So let's see here. Let's set this up for an example. Oops. All right. So my limit order is going to be 5 ticks away from the closing price, and let's cancel when, let's see, price moves away 10 ticks. Yeah, so if price moves away from if price moves too far away from our limit order, from our entry order, then we'll cancel it. So, all right, let's go long and let's just jack the market up. So we want to move the market, just move that market up. Make sure I didn't do something funny here. Let's see here. All right, that's off. And all right, 10 ticks, first event. Oh, I said 10 ticks against direction. Sorry, I picked the wrong one. There we go. All right, 10 ticks in direction. Right, yeah, I got my logic backwards. So we're using a limit order. So of course, limit orders are going to be below the market. So I wanted actually 10 ticks in direction with a limit order, right? Because price is moving in the direction of the trade. So since this is a long, this is a long limit order, so therefore price is moving in the direction and away from our limit order. So so for a limit order, for a limit entry order, if price, since this is a long limit entry order, when price moves up, or basically price is moving in the direction of the trade, because we're trying to go long, so price is moving in the direction of the trade, right? If you take a long trade, you want price to move up, so therefore price is moving in the direction of the trade, and that's what I want to cancel the order. So I just picked the wrong one there, and all right, let's close that, and let's do the opposite here. Let me go short, and then we'll move the market down. There we go. There we go. And our entry was canceled because price never pulled back to fill that limit order. Price just kind of took off in the direction of the trade. So, all right. So that's one, right? So there's some quick options there for canceling a limit order, and then of course, as I demonstrated earlier, you can use a custom trailing rule, right? So you have all these triggering events that you can use, right? You could use BloodHound, a BloodHound signal. You could use an indicator, some kind of custom indicator value. You can even use a trade signal from another order. Sorry, that is order status change. You could even use another trade signal. So the trade signal trigger is the trade signals up here, right? These are your trade signals up here, right? So you could use BloodHound or an indicator. These are your trade signals. So if another trade signal comes in, then you could use that to trigger some kind of custom trailing rule. And of course, the trailing rule we're talking about is canceling an order. So you could use a secondary trade signal. If a secondary trade signal comes in, that could be used to cancel the order. You could also just compare price to an indicator. And let's see, actually this will be more universal now. You can actually compare an indicator to an indicator as well, not just price, but yeah, we're gonna our next update will have the ability to compare an indicator to an indicator. You could look at profit or loss, the current position's profit or loss. This profit or loss is for the current open position. So let's see, yeah, this actually would not, the profit or loss, of course, it couldn't be used for our first OCO set, because we wouldn't have a position open. But say if you create a secondary order set, then maybe this first order could be a market. So you just get in with your first order set, and then your second order here could be a limit order or a stop order waiting to get picked up. And then go into the triggers, and then you could look for a specific profit or loss to cancel our second entry order, something like that. And order status. So order status changed. So that let's say if my stop loss gets hit for order A, I could look at my stop loss. There we go. A. Order set A, my stop loss. I could say, right, if my stop loss gets filled, then I could use that to cancel my entry order. for order set B. So right. So yeah, so you can use all these trigger events to cancel an order as well there. So the question is from Steve: is it possible to identify the highest high and lowest low within a specific time span? Basically, Steve is kind of describing a time-based breakout range, and then let's see, then place a we're going to place a limit order at that breakout range, at the breakout range price. So yes, Steve, it is. You will need a indicator that will identify your breakout range. Yeah. So with here, let's I can only kind of address really, Steve. Most of your question is regarding BloodHound, but so what you would do is you would go in here and you would create a BloodHound trade signal, right? Because so you've got some basically some logic that has to be followed through on first. All right, so that would be BloodHound. So BloodHound could take your breakout range indicator, and BloodHound could identify, when one of those ranges is broken, and then BloodHound, and then so once your breakout range is broken, then BloodHound could generate a trade signal and then pass that trade signal to BlackBird, and then BlackBird. So let's draw. Let's go to the drawing board here because everybody loves to see a pretty picture. So let's kind of craft a picture here so we're not just talking in theory. All right, trading is a very visual art, so it's always good to have visuals on the board. And let me kind of pick a spot here. Okay, yeah, let's go back in time. All right. So, all right. So I'm just going to randomly just kind of use this spot here. So let's say your indicator is tracking this range of time here. All right. So this range of time. So your indicator would track, this area as your range, right? So you have an upper range here, and typically that's going to be your long. And then down here, your indicator would track the low range, and of course your indicator needs to plot these ranges out, right? And so then, actually, hold on a sec. It would more properly look like that. There we go. So your indicator would be plotting that your high and low range out, and then BloodHound could detect, price crossing one of those ranges and then generate. So in this case, right, BloodHound could generate a short signal, and then your indicator that's plotting this low range, your indicator, or I should say BlackBird, could read the plot from your indicator and use that plot to set its limit entry order. So in Steve's example, right? We've got our range defined here, and so we just wait for price to go by, and bingo, price price breaks breaks out to the short side there, and then BloodHound would generate a short signal, and then BlackBird could read your indicator, and it could place a limit order on this plot that your indicator would plot, or right, the price that your indicator would plot out. BlackBird could set a limit order on that there. All right, so to set BlackBird up, right, you'd have BlackBird set up to read your BloodHound signal, and then your limit entry order. We go to options, and then your initial placement. You would set your placement of your limit order. You would set it to an indicator value, right? And then you would go and select your custom indicator that's tracking the breakout range there. Alrighty. I believe the folks at Lizard Trader have such an indicator, I think. I'm not 100% positive, but I think they do. But also, I think there's also one or two free indicators up on Futures.io. I seem to remember that from many years ago. So, yeah, so you could check out Futures.io to see if there's a breakout range indicator out there. So the key is the critical key though for your indicator is your indicator has to keep plotting the breakout ranges until let's see, actually no. So your indicator at least has to be plotting the breakout range when BlackBird places your entry order. All right. So if your indicator stops plotting, your entry order price, and of course BlackBird won't know where to place your entry order. So you will have to make sure that your indicator does keep plotting the ranges here. And let's see, I think that answers everything. Yeah, so the other component is that Steve would be waiting for price to pull back to the breakout range. Yeah, so right. So price breaks out, and then we need price to pull back and pick up a limit order. So yeah, so basically that's all implied. So if you have a limit order resting there, then of course, yeah, your limit order could just be sitting and resting there waiting for a price to pull back. Yep. And so, all right, so Steve wants to build it with BlackBird. So it sounds like, Steve, like you have a custom indicator that's plotting your breakout ranges. And all right, so if you're trying to take BloodHound out of the equation, then you could modify your custom breakout indicator to also generate a trade signal for BlackBird. And so therefore your breakout indicator could do everything all in one. Yeah, so if you know how to code, or maybe someone already wrote the trade signal into your custom indicator, then your breakout range indicator would need to have a trade signal built into it. and you could just use a indicator-based signal like that. So, and then you just go in here and select your indicator, set it all up. So just like that. Let's see. I think I have an indicator here as an example. Yeah, there we go. Yep, the LTS Ruby here. So the LTS Ruby has some trade signals built into it. It actually has an exit signal too. So this indicator would tell you, I guess when to exit. So that could actually be used in BlackBird to exit trades as well. But there you go. So so there's the trade signals, right? So just make sure that your breakout range indicator kind of has some kind of a signal here to fire off the trade, like that. And click OK. And then you could just use the default settings, right? So for a long signal, you would look for a value greater than 0. And for a short trade signal, you would look for a value less than 0. So, and then let's see, and then for the entry order, let's set up a limit order here. So your entry order, as I showed earlier, would set our initial placement based on an indicator value. So you could go select your indicator to place that. Let's see if I can come up with the indicator here that kind of plots some kind of value on price. Actually, let me use the LTS Ruby again. So I think that has, let's see, I think that has some values. Oh, yeah, look at that. So it has a fib. It has fib numbers here. So, like, I could use the 50% fib retracement. Well, let's see, that's -50. I'm not sure which fib I would use, the positive 50% or the negative 50%, but in any case, right, your indicator you'd want your indicator to plot the entry price for your limit order, or the order price, and there you go. So, and then our limit order would be set to that LTS Ruby fib 50% plot there. All right, I think that answers Steve's question. Okay, guys, with that, I'll say have a great weekend, or hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow in the BloodHound workshop. So, yep. If you guys have questions for BloodHound for tomorrow, please feel free to email those in as well. All right. Okay, guys, have a good one. Bye-bye.